Jimmy Butler, he's a very interesting player to me.
Just goes to show the offense for the Dallas Stars could not keep up, and when the defense needed to step up, the Lightning's offense just overpowered them.
It makes it almost impossible for their bats to get going or have any confidence in the locker room when you're getting absolutely hosed on the defensive end.
He's like, oh shoot, I don't know where to go with the ball because I haven't been able to think.
It's their defense, man. Mika Fitzpatrick, T.J. Watt.
You saw Luka. I'm very intrigued to see how Luka bounces back after his first playoff series.
For next season, there are massive free agents like Giannis. And if Giannis goes to a team like the Heat, like I said before, I expect them to win the championship. 4 teams who could win the AFC in my mind, legitimately. Steelers, Chiefs, Titans, Ravens.
Stay undefeated when they face the mighty Cowboys with Garrett Gilbert and Tony Pollard.
It was a great series. Game 4 was one of the best games I've ever watched in my entire life.
So happy when the Astros lost because it would definitely be a 2020 thing to have the Astros win a World Series, and then you have to hear them.
Now LeBron's a 4-time champion, and Anthony Davis gets his first.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah, I was impressed by their game. Braden Point, Andre Palat, Nikita Kucherov. That was the best line in the playoffs, no doubt.
I think you have 2 established number 1 wide receivers in Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, and I think you have an emerging star in CeeDee Lamb. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the 24th episode of Outsiders Opinions. We've recorded over 20 videos, so let us know what your favorite video has been so far in the comments. Also, if this is your first time hearing our voices, please make sure to listen to our trailer as it gives an explanation about the goal of our podcast. Make sure to listen to our latest power rankings as we discussed a lot of things. Let us know if you like the longer episodes in the comments. Today, we will give 4 teams that are championship or bust for this upcoming NBA season. And Austin, let's start with the championship Lakers, the reigning champs. What do you think?
Yeah, LeBron turns 36 this season, and Anthony Davis isn't getting any younger. They brought in another old player who's won a championship before, and Marc Gasol, and they made some key pickups like Dennis Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell during the offseason that's helped their team be in viable condition for the playoffs to come up. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think any team that really has LeBron, you got to go to the championship to help because that's what LeBron wants, and you got to help him be happy. And I think the name of the Lakers, like they just won their 17th title, and I think that combined with LeBron needing to win or wanting to win another finals makes him championship or bust. And also, they made a huge trade to get Anthony Davis to pair LeBron with another big superstar. And the only player left from that team, I think the first year LeBron's year, is Kyle Kuzma. They traded away Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, and a bunch of picks that could turn out really well after this. I think we can move on to the East, and a team that did just make another big trade is the Milwaukee Bucks. What do you think?
Yeah, they convinced Giannis to sign the largest contract extension in NBA history, and like you said, they traded for Drew Holiday to help convince them to do that. Giannis has not had the greatest playoff success as of recent times, but he needs to prove, especially for his legacy, that he can win big games when it matters. And when you have somebody like Giannis on your team, especially a small market team like the Bucks, they have to win a championship eventually, and he needs to win one this season after winning back-to-back MVPs. All he has left to prove is that he can win. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and you also saw the Bucks didn't even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. They lost to the Heat, and we saw how the team really wasn't doing well, and that's what I think forced the Bucks to make this trade for Drew Holiday. Because I think if they don't make that trade for Drew Holiday, Giannis doesn't sign the max extension, and he just goes finds another team. And I also think we're seeing this situation play out. I know they're very different personalities, Giannis and James Harden. At least I think they're different personalities, but we can see Giannis if they don't for if like he's on this 5 year, but I think Giannis could go to the Bucks if they're not fulfilling his wish of going to the finals, going to the management and saying, I want to be traded. And that really hurts because we've seen it with Anthony Davis and we're seeing it right now with James Harden. What do you think about that scenario?
Yeah, I could definitely see it playing out as early as next year, where he's like, "This isn't really working out. I want to win a championship now. If you're not going to make any more deals, trade me, please. I don't want to be in Milwaukee because I don't feel like we're moving uh, to become a champion. But I feel like we can move on to the next team. We're going back to LA, the Clippers. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and I really think the Clippers' chance to win the championship was last year. And they were up 3-1 against the Denver Nuggets, and then they just fell apart. And even in that game seven, the ending score, I know they gave up, but they were losing by like 20 plus points. And that's just not what you want to see because I think if they had made it to the conference championship and faced the Lakers, I think they would have beaten the Lakers, and then I think they would have beaten the Heat or the Celtics. Um, so that's really what I think. And did see Paul George play a lot better last night, but in that series we saw Paul George and Kawhi Leonard both were not playing to the potential that they could have played, and then they lose a big player in Montrezl Harrell. So I think that's what makes him a huge bust, a huge championship or bust because this is potentially Kawhi's last year. Do you agree?
Here's where you and I disagree. I feel like they have a better chance of winning this year because I feel like LeBron and AD aren't as hungry as they were last year to win a championship, and the Clippers really need to prove that they are not always second fiddle to a Lakers team that, like you said earlier, has won their 17th championship now. I feel like Paul George has a lot to prove, a lot more to prove, obviously, than Kawhi Leonard. And with the additions of Serge Ibaka, another person who was on that championship team with Kawhi and has been a great defender throughout his entire career. I mean, those additions just should empower you to play better in games that matter. And we saw that last night. Serge Ibaka played well. They picked up Nicholas Batum. He played well. And obviously, like you said, Paul George played well, but they need to do this in the playoffs. And I believe they can. That's why earlier I had them winning the West, is I feel like they're going to, under the direction of Ty Lue, know that this is one of their last chances. Because, like you said, this is Kawhi's last year. If he doesn't want to really re-sign with the team, he can choose that he can just be like, I want to, just like the honest saying, he wants to move out because he doesn't see them winning a championship.
Yeah, and I think that scenario, I think if they definitely make it to the finals, I think they could entice Kawhi to stay. Do you think it's just his final year or it's kind of similar to what we saw with the Raptors? Maybe they can convince him to stay.
Um, well, really with Kawhi, it's an interesting scenario because nobody really knows what he's actually thinking. Um, he has a contract for next year, but I mean, after his deal was over, he may want out. It's a player option next year, and he could definitely decide that I don't want to stay. I would like to move on to greener pastures. Maybe he joins a Bucks team with Giannis. They can pull that off or something like that. I mean, I don't know, but I feel like if they do not win a championship this year, he's out. I think even if they make the championship, if they don't win it, he sees that as a loss and tries to get out of LA.
Yeah, and that would just leave Paul George as they did sign him to a huge extension. And then those picks come really important that they gave away to the um, Oklahoma, to the Thunder to get Paul George. Kind of seem like Thunder would win that trade. But I think we can move on to back to the East and go with the Brooklyn Nets. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this isn't as championship or bust as most people see it. It's definitely a tier down from the other three, but it definitely is championship or bust in the sense that they're expected to win. Whether that's a championship or whether that's just making it to the conference finals and playing the Bucks and losing, they're expected to win. I don't necessarily see it as championship or bust this season because this is their first season playing together, but it is championship or bust in the sense that they should at least make the conference championship. They should show some form of gelling to where they can prove that, hey, this is working. Next year we are going to win a championship. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of think I definitely think next year's definitely championship or bust, but I also think this year because I think they got it, or at least what you were saying, they have to show some potential because before the Nets made made the signings of Kyrie and the trade for Kevin Durant, but technically signing him, I think they had a really good team. They have Jared Allen. They had D'Angelo Russell. I really liked what the Nets were having, and I was not a huge fan of putting Kyrie and Kevin Durant together. But as we saw last night, this offense or this team has the potential to do really great things. And so I think they need to definitely show potential, but I also think they should definitely try. And I think now we can talk about a team that we don't necessarily know is championship or bust, but it depends on what they do. As we were talking about, if a team makes a trade for James Harden, and the Nets have been linked to this, it definitely makes them championship or bust. Right, Austin?
Yes, if this is any of the teams, the Heat, the Sixers, the Nets, the Bucks, some of these teams are already championship or bust, but that is even more put into emphasis if they make this trade. Um, unless the team is completely out of contention, they are championship or bust. If it was a team like, like OKC, like I don't know why they would make the trade. Let's just put it out there. Like they wouldn't obviously be championship or bust. But if a team like maybe the Warriors or a team that probably couldn't make the trade because of cap reasons. But if a team like that were to make the trade, they would automatically be championship or bust because of the player they're picking up. He is an MVP caliber player who is in the prime of his career.
Yeah, and I think probably the most likely destination, I would probably say Nets number one, and then Sixers, and then the Heat were interested, but they backed out. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, it's hard to know where James Harden sits right now because he's always been known as a player who doesn't really 100% care. He's been seen at Houston clubs all the time, and people really question how much he actually wants to win. So it's going to be interesting to see what team fully commits, if any team fully commits, in making a huge deal with the Rockets to help them get some of those picks back that they traded for Russell Westbrook.
Well, those are our picks. Thank you for listening to our 24th episode. Please check out our last episode where we did another power rankings of all the NFL teams. Again, if this is your first time listening to our show, make sure to go check out our new trailer to learn what our podcast is all about. Also, for everyone, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the bell to turn on notifications to find out when we drop our next episode. Speaking of our next episode, we will be doing playoff predictions for the NHL as the NHL season starts in a couple of weeks. Also, make sure to be on the lookout for a special episode in the upcoming days as we don't want to spoil the surprise. We hope everyone has a great holiday season.